Ever since the Mimic's introduction in the books, and especially in the games, there have been countless theories created about how the Mimic is in fact Burntrap. However, I believe that the games especially show us and give us evidence that the Mimic and Burntrap are supposed to be separate characters and are in fact not the same. How's it going, everybody, and welcome back to another discussions video. As you can probably tell, today's video is going to be on a pretty well-known but divisive topic within the FNAF theorizing community. That's a weird thing to say, but the big topic is whether the Mimic and Burntrap are the same or whether they're different. And today I want to try to prove that they are supposed to be different characters, but I will also be giving evidence and other theories that people have brought up to kind of try to explain how they are the same. Now, if you've seen my other discussion videos, you know that this video is going to be broken down into several different segments. So the first segment that I usually tend to do is some sort of character comparison or like design comparison between characters. So that's what we're going to be getting into. But first, a little bit of a disclaimer. I am no dedicated theorist. I only bring up ideas and details that I've noticed while playing the games and some of the stuff that I've learned from other people and other theory videos. So I'm just going based off of what I know. So it might not be all correct. I might have missed something. There might be other details that I don't know about. So if there is, just be sure to leave them in the comments and just let me know. But anyway, we'll get right into the comparison now. While the designs of Burntrap and the Mimic do share some similarities, there are also quite a few differences. To me, I think the most obvious differences are with the arms and the legs. While Burntrap has slight ring-like elements around the arms, but very obvious ring elements around the legs, the Mimic has more, it almost looks like retractable arms, and the legs are just completely random, just random elements on both legs. They don't even match each other. So very different arm and leg designs. Now, another detail that I've noticed is with the lower torso section. On Burntrap, it's a more solid and wider center build with these smaller pistons coming up the side, whereas the Mimic has a slightly more slender center, but these larger pistons coming up on the side. And so it is kind of similar. However, I do think that it is different enough to distinguish them as different characters. Now, I'm not going to get into the upper body or head sections because we can't really see that on Burntrap since it's covered up by the rabbit suit and the skull. So there's not really a whole lot to compare there. But I can do the eyes because the eyes are different between both of them, with the Mimic having these more brighter eyes and Burntrap having the more solid black eyes with the purple pupils. So there is a difference in the eyes as well. Now, I think it's only fair to discuss some counterpoints to what I'm bringing up with the designs. And I think a big counterpoint that I can come up with is how characters have changed designs between games throughout FNAF. I mean, we can look at Springtrap to Scraptrap, and obviously a very huge design difference there. And another difference is between Roxy in Security Breach and Roxy in Ruin. So big character design changes are still happening even as recently as some of the newest games to be coming out. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that Burntrap's design could have been changed into the Mimics as another design evolution. But I still don't think this is the case. I think their designs are different enough, and there's not enough linking them together to sort of establish it as just a major redesign for Burntrap. But we still have proof outside of character designs, and we don't even have to look outside of the games to find it. Case in point, where they are found in their respective games. In the base game of Security Breach, you can end up finding Burntrap located under the old Pizza Sim location in the sinkhole under Roxy's Raceway. Now, the fact that you can find Burntrap under the Pizza Sim location, to me, definitely seems like he's tied to that location, and it's not just coincidence that he's somehow underneath of the Pizza Sim location. Now, a theory that I don't really see brought up all that much is that Burntrap is actually just William Afton, just a more damaged version of him, which I think actually makes more sense than him somehow being the Mimic. I think we don't even have to look outside of the character design to prove that it is just William Afton, but slightly more modified than we last saw him. Now, if you compare Burntrap to the Scraptrap and Springtrap designs, wow, that's a lot of traps in there. A very noticeable pattern that exists between all three character designs are the ears, which I don't think is just a coincidence. The ear designs on all three versions of Springtrap have the right ear being sort of broken down and torn halfway down the ear, while the left ear is a more full and complete version. I don't think it's just, oh, it just happened to turn out this way. It definitely seems like it's supposed to tie in Burntrap with the other characters. Another detail that I think connects Burntrap to the other different traps are his feet design. If you look at the different feet designs that Burntrap has, his left foot is literally taken straight off of Scraptrap. It is the exact same design. And Burntrap's right foot is, to me, it looks like just more of a well-polished version of Springtrap's foot design. Man, I'm starting to feel like MatPat. I'm going down and counting animatronic toes and looking at their feet. Now, I could probably dedicate a whole video just on the evolution of Springtrap to Burntrap. Definitely an idea that I want to do at some point, so if you want to see that, let me know. But that's not the point of today's video. Anyways, what I'm getting at is that I feel like the design of Burntrap is supposed to tie into the previous Springtrap designs, especially Scraptrap, and connect him to the Pizza Sim location rather than it just being, oh, it's the Mimic who somehow has a body attached to him, which we'll get into later, and also somehow has a rabbit costume attached to him, which we'll get into later, and also just ends up being underneath of the Pizza Sim location, but has absolutely no connection to William Afton whatsoever. That just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Now, another random detail design for Burntrap, which I know I didn't bring up in the design section, but I felt like it fit better here, is that on the back of Burntrap's model, on like the back of his torso and his head sections, there's like these metal plates that are screwed together or like welded to the rabbit suit. Now, I've seen some people theorizing that this is actually from the Mimic who tears suits open from the back. I think that's something he does in the books. So people brought that up as, oh, well, this is him tearing the suit open from the back. I feel like you're just kind of trying to stretch details when you do that. Because to me, what I gather when I see that isn't a, oh, he tore the suit open and then he rotated his arms back to fix it up and put it back together. I think it's more likely that this is Vanny's work and that under the sway of the Mimic 01 program, she went down to the old Pizza Sim location, found what was left of William in the Spring Bonnie suit, and tried her best to put it back together. And that's how we end up with these metal plates attached to the back of Burntrap. Editor's note, something that I kind of forgot to mention while initially recording this is that I think other details on Burntrap's design, like the fact that he has 2 full arms again, and other details like that don't necessarily line up with Scraptrap, is also the work of Vanny, using whatever spare parts from the pizzeria that she can to fix up and rebuild William to the best of her abilities. So that's why he has another arm, that's why some stuff is fixed. It's just her using what she can, what scraps of parts that she can, to put them back together. Anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because I know somebody was going to bring that up in the comments, and I forgot to bring it up in the main video. So just want to quick add that in there. Now we'll get back to it. Now, it might seem like I'm rambling a bit, which I am, but that's kind of the point of these videos. But I think that Burntrap is supposed to clearly be set up as a direct successor to Scraptrap and not supposed to be the Mimic somehow ending up looking more like a Springtrap than the Mimic. But speaking of, the Mimic had his first introduction in the Tales of the Pizzaplex books, but wouldn't officially be introduced into the games until Ruin, so he's been introduced relatively recently, which means there's not a whole lot of build-up or history in the games beforehand. But I still think that Ruin, it gives us everything we need to figure out that the Mimic is in fact not Burntrap. Probably one of the most obvious facts is that the Mimic is completely sealed off from everything else. He's locked in a basement behind a security blast door and several layers of concrete, plus the mixes system that Gregory and Vanessa probably set up. So he's definitely been locked away for a good while. Now, the common theory that I hear is that Gregory and Vanessa, well, one, they're the one that set up mixes, two, that they closed the door, and three, that they're the ones that poured the concrete over to seal him off, which to me doesn't really make a whole lot of sense because he's locked in a tight room, right? If you look at the room that the Mimic is in with the costumes and stuff, there's a vent that goes into it, and then there's that main garage door, and that's it. So I don't understand how they would have kept the Mimic at bay while letting concrete go over top and dry and whatever. So it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for them to be the ones that set up the concrete. I do think it makes sense that they're the ones that set up the door and mixes. That makes a lot of sense. I just don't get how they would also be the ones that set up the concrete and would have to keep the Mimic at bay while it dries and seals. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but I guess it is possible. The more likely option that I agree with is that the Mimic's been sealed there for at least a good while, probably before the events of base game security breach. So I think the Mimic's just been down there since, at the very least, we played as Gregory having his fun in the Pizzaplex. But this isn't really like solid evidence, right? It's just sort of people having to guess as to this. And so am I. I'm just guessing that he's been sealed there longer based on what I can tell. But one thing that I think really seals the deal that they aren't the same are the comic strips that you can collect while playing Ruin. Now, I see these get brought up every now and then in a Mimic theory video or a video talking about Ruin, but they're never really discussed all that much. It's just used to show that Princess Quest is the true ending of the game, and that's really about it. But I think the fact that the Burntrap ending is a comic strip tells us that that never actually happened. Because I've seen people bring up that, well, the Burntrap ending isn't the real ending to Security Breach, that it still somehow happened. But I just don't think that makes any sense because it's a comic strip that Gregory created and just for fun. So I don't know why it would also be true. But if the Burntrap ending didn't happen, then how would Gregory know what Burntrap looked like? Well, I think Ruin shows us this as well. The path that you take to reach the Mimic sends us through the Burntrap ending room. Specifically, we walk right past the recharge station that Burntrap was in, although conveniently, the window is too dirty and smudgy to actually see anything through, but I'm guessing that was the point. We aren't supposed to see whether or not Burntrap is in there, but I think that he actually is. And I think that the Gregory comic strips is what proves it. I'm assuming that on Gregory and Vanessa's way down to the Mimic, they would have had to pass by this section, similar to Cassie, and Gregory would have most likely seen Burntrap in the recharge station, since it probably wouldn't have been all dirty at that point. And so he would have gotten the idea of Burntrap from there. And they would have also seen the Tangle, which we know is actually a thing canonically because we see it in Ruin as well, and that it's been tunneling around the Pizzaplex. So they would have most likely have seen that as well, since it is also around that area in the Burntrap ending. So my guess is that on their way down, Gregory saw the Tangle and he saw Burntrap and decided that he would make a fun comic strip about what if you had to go up and battle these guys, which is the Burntrap ending. So the Burntrap ending never happened. There was never a fight. He never even really was alive, Burntrap. I think it's more likely that Burntrap was just stuck in that recharge station, completely dead. He wasn't alive. There's not William Afton in there. He's just dead. He's just essentially a lifeless suit sitting in a recharge station. I think to me that makes more sense than the Mimic somehow having a body and a rabbit suit connected to it, being in this recharge station, and then somehow escaping and then going further down underground even though it's trying to escape, and then getting sealed behind a room and then taking all that off. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me why the Mimic would do that instead of, oh, I don't know, getting out of the recharge station and going up to the surface, which is what it wants to do. To me, it makes more sense that the Mimic was sealed away underground a lot longer than we think it was, because we know that it has been down there for a while. And to me, it just makes more sense that he would have been sealed away down there. Gregory and Vanessa would have done their best to add additional security, which is what the security nodes are, and mixes. Plus, when you deactivate mixes, it opens the door, so clearly they also were involved with that. But I think the concrete was someone else, probably Fazbear Entertainment, trying to just bury this thing and not have anybody worry about it. Most likely taking place sometime before the base game security breach, and that Burntrap is just William Afton, but he's still dead. But I think it's only fair to bring up some counterpoints that try to prove that the Mimic and Burntrap are the same. There are tons of different theories and theory videos out there about both Burntrap and the Mimic, far too many for me to get into in this video, but I did want to bring up one relatively common idea that I see get brought up, which is talking about Burntrap and the corpse that's inside of him. So this idea is that the body isn't William Afton, but actually a character from the Tales of the Pizzaplex books. In one of the Mimic arcs, I believe there's a scene where a character is hiding inside of a mascot costume, and the Mimic actually climbs into the suit while the person's in there, which ends up killing them, and somehow their body like fuses with the Mimic, and now the Mimic has a body attached, like a corpse attached to it, which is a little strange, but I guess it makes sense. But that's the sort of the common consensus, is that the reason Burntrap is the Mimic is because of this body. It's not William Afton, it's this character attached to the Mimic. Now, that's just a very simple retelling of that idea. Not a whole lot of details to there. I just wanted to get a simple idea out there. However, I find that it just seems so much like a stretch to come up with this. Because, I mean, to me, the more obvious idea is that it is just William Afton. But I just don't see how it's this character from the Tales of the Pizzaplex book that was in a different animal costume, because it wasn't a bunny costume. I don't remember the one specific, but I think it was like a blue animal. I don't remember. But it was a whole different costume. So you're telling me that the Mimic fused with this person, got out of this costume, and then climbed into a heavily damaged rabbit costume, keeping the same, like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. To me, it just seems like people are trying to come up with as many different ideas as possible to make sure that Burntrap isn't just William Afton, because they don't want him to be alive again. They don't want William Afton to have somehow survived the Pizza Sim fire because he always comes back. Now, I don't think he actually did come back. I think he's still dead, but it is William Afton. It's just what makes the most sense to me. Again, there's just too many theories for me to cover here, so if you want to, go check out any videos about the Mimic or Burntrap. There's tons of them out there, so I would recommend just going to check any of those, because they would do a whole lot of a better job of explaining this topic than me, since I'm still kind of new to the scene. So they'll do a whole lot better job explaining it. I can't really think of any right now, but if I do, then I'll link them in the description below. Editor's note here, once again. I did actually find a couple channels that have a good few videos about the Mimic and Burntrap and other theory videos like that. The two that I think of, I don't know why I didn't think of these when I was making this video, but the two that I would definitely recommend is MR Springs and Demuted. They both make really good videos about the Mimic and other FNAF theory topics, so I would recommend go checking those out because they do a really good job of explaining this. Anyway, I'll let you guys get back to the video once again. Now, I just wanted to summarize and simplify my rambling from earlier. I tend to like to do that in these kind of videos, just rambling on, but I do want to start having dedicated summary sections so that it's a bit easier for people to kind of understand what I was saying. Anyway, there's me rambling off again. Now, to kind of summarize my theory / idea, I think what happened is that Vanny, under the sway of the Mimic 01 program or Glitch Trap, is sent down to the old Pizza Sim location, finds the remains of William Afton, and he's just like a crumpled, lifeless suit, but she finds what remains of him, tries to fix him up, gives him new endo parts, gives him new eyes, gives him, like, patches up the suit, you know, modifies him, fixes him up a bit, and puts him in a modified recharge station to keep him intact. However, the Burntrap ending isn't canon, so he's never brought back to life. The Mimic program can't enter William Afton, Springtrap, Burntrap. It can't enter him, so he never actually comes back to life, and he's just left to rot in this old recharge station. Now, while this was happening, the Mimic was sealed away by Fazbear Entertainment under the Pizza Sim location in an even older location, which we don't know what it is, but he's clearly been there for a while, and it's a very old location. After the events of Security Breach, the base game, Vanessa, now freed from the Glitch Trap programming, works with Gregory to go down and reinforce and further seal the Mimic in to keep him away from everybody else and to keep him hidden away. And they do this by reinforcing the concrete, adding the blast door, and setting up mixes to make sure that he can't get out until the events of Ruin take place. I hope that kind of summarizes things a bit. I tried my best. I think it kind of gets my point across, so I hope that made sense to you guys. But I just wanted to summarize my rambling because I like to do that. While this isn't necessarily the best theory ever, I do think it is a good one that does a good job of explaining why the Mimic and Burntrap are actually not the same character. That being said, there are always holes in every theory, and if there's anything I missed or any details that I didn't talk about, just please let me know in the comments. I just like to make these videos to get people talking about topics and to bring up some more interesting ideas into the theory field. So if you guys have any ideas, please just let me know. I would love to hear you guys' theories or what you guys thought about this video in the comments. I just like to get feedback so that maybe next time I can do a little bit better. But if you enjoyed the video, then you should definitely hit that like button and subscribe. I mostly post gaming videos, but every other Saturday I do post one of these discussion videos, and the topic of which is chosen in a poll by you guys. So you guys can vote on whatever theory video you want me to do next. Thank you all for watching. I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. And remember, I always come back. See you next time.